Okay, so here I'm going to show you two things. I'm going to show you how to do a t-test in Google Sheets, and then I'm going to show you how to do a graph in Google Sheets. So I put the data from the worksheet on a separate page here. You can see that I have time on my left and then the two sample data sets from germinated and non-germinated seeds in milliliters of oxygen consumed. So to do a t-test, you need to find a cell that isn't being occupied. So I'm just going to pick this cell. And then you need to create a function. So to create a function, you always start with an equal sign, and then you're going to put t-test in, and t-test will pop up. You can see it right there. So I'm going to click on that, and then a key comes up telling you how to select the samples. And essentially what you're going to do is you're going to select the first sample, then you're going to do the second sample, then you're going to put in two numbers that is telling the function how many tails you want and the type of test. And these last two numbers you don't really need to worry about that much. We are going to use a one-tail test to look for just an increase or decrease in the sample, and we're going to use the number 3 for the third type of t-test is the one that we're going to be using. So to select the samples, you're going to start at the top and scroll to the bottom of the sample. So in this case I have 6 data points that I've selected. Then you're going to hit comma, and you're going to do the same for the second sample. So we have those two samples. Then you're going to hit comma again. You're going to put in 1 for that one tail. You're just looking for an increase or decrease. Comma 3, close parentheses, and then hit enter. Okay, so you have a number here. Now what does this number mean? If this number is less than or equal to the number 0.05, then you can reject the null hypothesis. So in this case, your t-test value, this is actually called the p-value here. This is the p-value. The p-value is clearly less than 0.05. So then you would reject the null hypothesis. In this case, because you're comparing the amount of milliliters of oxygen consumed between two different samples, your null hypothesis would be saying that there is no statistical difference between these two. But the t-test here is indicating that you have to reject that null hypothesis, that there is no difference. I know it's kind of like a double negative. So in this case, then there is a statistical difference between the two data sets. In this case, because the this data set is much larger than this one, you would say that there is a statistical increase in milliliters of oxygen consumed in the germinated seeds compared to the milliliters of oxygen consumed in the non-germinated. So that's how you do a t-test. Now, I also want you to know how to do a proper graph. So the way you do this is actually easier in Sheets than Excel. So that's nice. All you need to do is highlight your entire table. You need to make sure that what you want on the x-axis is on the left column, and we want time on the x-axis, and you want these two data sets graphed, and these next two columns is going to be on your y, the milliliters of oxygen consumed. So then what you're going to do is insert a chart. So click insert and then chart, and then all this stuff is, this big window is going to come up. Now we don't want a bar graph, and very rarely will we do anything but a scatter plot. So let's click chart types up here and scroll down to scatter plot. We click that, and we can see that that looks a lot like what we want here, with a scatter plot that we can then put a best fit line in. So we have this to work off of, but it's not completely ready to be insert it into a lab report yet. We have some work to do. So you want to click customization. So for the title, you want to make it a title that isn't just procedurally generated from the axes. So make a title that is that explains what the data is representing. I will leave that up to you. You keep going down, you're going to see some information dealing with the legend. If you want to change some variables, the color, that's up to you. But what I'm interested in is more of this stuff at the bottom dealing with the axes. So you can select the horizontal and vertical axes. So right now we're on the horizontal, and if it didn't pop up the proper title for your horizontal axis, you would put it here, but because I titled my column time in minutes, then it used that information to already fill that out, so that's good. The grid lines, generally you don't want grid lines on the back of your graph, so I will turn those off. So it turned off the horizontal grid lines, which happen to be up and down, but you want to turn those off. And then if you keep scrolling down, actually it's going to go into the series, so we'll get into that later. Let's switch over to the vertical now. So go back up to axes, you switch over to the vertical. Now the computer isn't going to know how to label the vertical because you had two samples that you use, so it's not smart enough to pick that up. So you got to type that in there. So your y-axis is going to be milliliters of oxygen consumed. So there we have that. And then you want to turn off those grid lines as well. And that's what we're looking at here. Now, I wanted to show you that there's another selection here of, let's see, yeah, so this major grid lines tab with a number tells you how many numerical labels you want on the axis. So they're both set at 5, so you can see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the same on the y-axis. It doesn't hurt to have more numerical numbers. So if you set it to 10 for both of them, you can see that I set it to 10, and now you have more data, more specific intervals that you can use to analyze the graph. And if you switch over, I forgot to do this with the horizontal, you could do that with the horizontal as well. Set it to 10, and it's looking pretty good. Same information, just more detailed. Okay, so now let's put in the tread lines. So to do the tread lines, you have to select each series. So if you go down a little bit more on this customization page, you can see that there's a series tab with both of the data, the sampled sets here, germinated and non-germinated. Right now we're on germinated seeds. So we're on germinated. You keep going down. All this stuff is just customization. You can play around with that if you feel like it, changing what type of data point it is and how big it is in the color. But the tread line down here is what I'm interested in. So you want a linear tread line for this graph. So we're going to click linear in there, and you'll notice when you put in a linear tread line, the legend pops up with more information, which is not necessary. So what you want to do is turn that off. So just underneath tread line, there's a label option for, do you want the equation of the line, and we don't really need that for this lab. You can just turn that off, just to make to keep the graph clean. You don't want too much information like that. And to do the other data set, you just go back up to the series, select the other series, the other sample, go back down, select tread line, linear, turn off the legend, and that is your graph. And you click insert, and now you can print this graph or insert it into your lab report. So that's nice. Alright, thank you.